The Anillo de Picos de Europa circles through one of Spain's most breathtaking regions, where lush green valleys meet dramatic rocky peaks. Covering 117 kilometers, the route presents a rewarding challenge for any multi-day hiker, and I'll show you how to plan your own version of the hike. What we really loved about this hike is that Picos de Europa is a national park in Spain, and it really shows the beauty of northern Spain with its lush greenery and the rocky peaks. Also, the hike feels quite isolated and wild, and you can see a lot of wildlife as well, especially these chamois. And lastly, since the hike is a loop, it gives you a lot of freedom to choose the starting point. And also, if you don't want to do the full loop, you can alter the route quite easily. So the hike looks like this, and I really love the shape of it. It reminds me of an eagle. And since it is a loop, you could do it either way. We did it counterclockwise, and I think most people do it that way. You could also do it clockwise. However, I would only recommend doing it clockwise if you are confident in climbing. There are a few sections where you would have to come down some rocky parts that are a bit tricky, and I'll explain these parts better in each stage. The total distance for this hike was 117 kilometers, and the elevation gain and the elevation loss was about 8,600, and max elevation was 2,300. We did this hike in 9 days, and I'm going to show you all the stages and point out some of the highlights and also some important information what you should know. To show you the hike properly, I'm going to use a guide from takeahike.io, and I'll leave the link down in the description so you can also access this guide. So you can see all the same information I'm going to show you, and also if you want to download the GPX files, they are here. So go ahead and check it out. The hike is located in northern Spain, right over here, and it is inside a national park called Picos de Europa. And the closest airports would be Bilbao and Asturias Airport, which is close to Oviedo. However, we drove all the way from Barcelona, and it was a long drive, but if you make a trip out of it, if you stop by in some of the beautiful places in the Basque Country, then it's worth it. It's a bit tricky to get around with the public transport, so I would highly recommend renting a car. So if you do arrive at the airport of Bilbao, for example, I would just rent a car from there. However, if you don't have the option to rent a car anywhere, you can take a bus. It would be a bit tricky. You would need to make several changes, but technically you could take a bus to Las Arenas or to Cangas de Onís, because from these places you have another bus that would take you inside the national park. So from Las Arenas, you could get to Poncebos, and from Cangas de Onís, you could get to the Lagos Covadonga. And if you are arriving with your own car, you have a lot of options where you can start the hike. We started the hike from Poncebos, and this is a very good area because you have a lot of options where to park the car for free for several days. So we actually spent a night, there was a hostel in Poncebos, and right next to the hostel, there was a very small parking lot, but we managed to park the car there. And at least at the time, it was all free. If you do not manage to park the car in Poncebos, there is a free parking lot over here. So this one is a big one. You can fit like 140 cars there, and it's all free. And it's about 1.5 kilometers to walk then from the parking lot to Poncebos. So it's not too bad. Another option would be to start from Sotres, it's over here. So that one as well is a little village. Or if you want to start the hike from the southern side, you could go to Posada de Valdeón, which is another village. Another option would be to start from Fuenteré over here. And this place is not directly on the trail, but there's a cable car that you can take from here up here, and then you can access the trail. And a good thing in Fuenteré, they have a campsite and also a few, like 2 hotels, so you can spend the night there. And there is a big parking lot as well, which is free. The hike is connected by many mountain huts, so you can sleep all the nights in a mountain hut. So as you can see here on the map, these are all the mountain huts you're going to pass through during the hike. So there's a lot to choose from. And you should always make reservations for the mountain huts. They don't have any booking system where you can just book all the huts you need. but you need to just contact them separately. But on this guide, you can find all the mountain huts and then links to the websites. Also, you will go through a few villages where you can find a few little hotels. For example, here in Posada de Valdeón, Sotres and Bulnes. So these places have a little hotels there that you can, have a little bit of a luxury. If you want to do camping, that is also possible. However, in this case, it would need to be wild camping mostly. There is one campsite here in Fuenterrey, but again, it's not directly on the trail. So you would have to take the cable car down to this little village here. Regarding the wild camping, so wild camping is also possible as long as you follow a few rules. So you should always be more than 1,600 meters of elevation. And also by wild camping, I mean that you need to pitch the tents right before sunset and you need to take it down right after sunrise. So you only do like an overnight camp and then you move on. And let's talk about food and water. You could always get some food from the mountain huts, and when you go through some of these villages, you can find food there. There's some like cafes or restaurants, but we mostly carried all of our snacks with us, and we were camping most of the night, so we would carry quite a bit of food for dinners and for breakfasts. And when you pass through these little villages, they do have a little kiosk. They sell some basic food items or like bakery items and cheese. Since the hike is mostly in Asturias, they make really, really good cheese. So also in these villages, you should definitely try to buy some cheese, and also then you could get like an apple as well. That's what we did. Like we bought some cheese and apple, and then having them together, like it was a perfect little snack. So you can find really good food along this trail. However, when it comes to water, it's more difficult. For many years now, the whole national park of Picos de Europa, they have been suffering from lack of water. So you should always carry some extra water with you. We would find many of these water fountains that they were completely dry. So we started the hike from Poncebos, right over here. And the first part of the hike is actually very iconic, because this part over here it's a part of the Ruta del Cares, and that one is a trail that actually connects Poncebos all the way to over here, to the Posada de Valdeón. And it is a beautiful trail. It follows a gorge, so there's a big river right here, and then they have kind of carved this trail along the side of the mountain. So the first 8 kilometers, you will follow the Ruta del Cares, and then you start climbing away from the gorge, or like you start like climbing up the mountain. And one important thing to know is that here, right before you start climbing, there's a little bridge. And next to the bridge, there is a water fountain. At least at the time, there was a very strong flow, so we were able to collect some water from here. And also here, this is an important part. It's really important to refill all your bottles here, because this one is the last water source before reaching the mountain hut over here. Like here it might look short, but it is a few hours of hiking for sure. And we were running out of water during this climb. And then you can get to the Refugio Vegarredonda. And important thing, now you are hiking in Spain, so every time you get a chance, if you go through of these mountain huts or a little restaurant or cafe, always ask for aquarius. So this is my favorite drink to have whenever I'm doing some sport or like, running, hiking, whatever. So if you get a chance, ask for aquarius and you can thank me later. And we camped close to the mountain hut over here. Really beautiful sunset and also the sunrise. So this one was a really good spot for a camp. And day 2 was easier. It was only 16 kilometers and 700 meters of elevation. And basically, first you kind of go down a lot to the Lagos Covadonga. So these are famous lakes, really beautiful. And also there's a chance to have lunch here. There's like a proper restaurant. That's also where we stopped and ate. When you start kind of climbing, you will climb up this like really big, beautiful green valley. And also you will find a lot of cows on this part. And we went all the way to this Refugio Vegarredonda. We asked some advice about the camping, and they said like around their refugio it wasn't allowed, but you can hike up, and there is this like old little hut where you were allowed to pitch your tent. And it was very good because there was a big water fountain or like a flowing river there as well. So for us, it worked super well. And day 3. So if you look at the distance and the elevation gain, it looks quite easy day. However, this was one of the hardest days. So here you will spend most of the day in the high mountains. And here the terrain, it gets a bit tricky. So it's super rocky. You need to climb some sections, like you need to get handy with it. So it will be like a slow process. And also on these parts where you are at the rocky sections, you need to pay a lot of attention to the navigation. So it's not well marked. Like there is no clear path that you just follow it because it's really rocky. So you need to try to look for these yellow dots of paint. And on few occasions, you need to climb up the rocks, and there are no like aids. There's no ropes or nothing like that. Like you need to like climb with your hands. For some people, it could be a bit scary. For sure, for me, it would be scary if I were there alone. However, I did this hike with my partner, Julio, and he loves this stuff. Like for him, it was like easy, and he made it look easy. So for me, it was very comforting to do the same thing, like just climb after him, because then he would kind of guide me through it. If you're not comfortable with climbing on the rocks, it could be a bit challenging. Here, and this is like an empty hut, so like there's no, it's a very small hut, it's meant for like 4 people. There is a water fountain to collect water, so this would also be a good option to spend the night. On this day, our plan was actually to stay in this hut. It's free for everybody to use, and it's quite big. I think you can fit over 20 people there. However, when we got here, there is a water fountain outside, but it was completely dry. So we knew that if there is no water source around the hut, we cannot spend the night there. So the only option we had is to keep going. We knew that there is a mountain hut over here, so we decided to go down there. And since they were fully booked, they told us that yes, we can just pitch the tents next to the mountain hut. So this place was super nice, and then you could get some like nice drinks, and the best thing actually was that they had these really cool showers. So the showers, they were like outside. You could see like the views of the mountains while you are showering. And it was a hot shower. So they had hot water. I would recommend this mountain hut just for the showers. And the day 4, that was kind of our rest day. So we had booked a hotel from the town here. And it was an easy day. It was 10 kilometers, but you're just basically going downhill. So it was easy. And here in the town, they have like some services, some restaurants, cafes. So it was a nice just to have an easy day and then just chill in the town. And on the day 5, we went to the Refugio Collado Jermoso. And this one basically means like a beautiful mountain pass. And that what it really is. Like this location was so beautiful. And the great thing was that you were allowed to pitch your tents close to the mountain hut. So they even had this like kind of like a pitches, like, you know, made with rocks. So you are kind of also protected because it couldn't get really windy. Also on day 6, the numbers, they look quite easy. But once again, all this area over here, it's super rocky. The terrain is a bit difficult. So there is no clear path. Like there might be still some snow as well. So navigating through this area, you need to pay a lot of attention. We didn't go down to Fuente, but we just continued along the trail. And then here there's a good, really strong river for some water source. And day 7, was really beautiful as well. Especially here, this part is just, you're on a gravel road, so it's super easy to walk. And over here, there is a water fountain. And again, it would be very important to refill the bottles here. Because once you start climbing, you won't find another water source before reaching the mountain hut over here. And on this climb, it's kind of steep, as you can see over here as well. And almost when you get to the mountain pass, there is a bit tricky section. So this one it's short, but it's very steep, and they have put like a rope there. So you need to climb up using the rope. So you need to be able to pull up your whole body weight, which for some people it could be a bit difficult. And for example, if you would do this hike clockwise, you would have to come down this section, and it could be a bit tricky because you don't really see so well how to come down, like where to put your feet. Also, if you don't want to do this bit, you could easily skip this. So this road, or the gravel road, it would continue all the way to here. So you could easily skip this. And stage 8 was really beautiful. Like, you do need to climb like over 1,000 meters, but as you can see here, it's little by little. So this climb was super easy, and it's beautiful as well because you kind of see the peaks there, and you should be able to see the Picos de Urriellu, which this one is like one of the most famous things to see in the whole of Picos de Europa park. It's a very iconic peak. However, once we got like close to the mountain hut, so there's the Refugio Vegarredonda, it got quite foggy and there were like really low clouds. So then we didn't see this peak at all. So we had no idea like where is it. And also close to this mountain hut, you were allowed to pitch your tent only for the night. And also you pitch your tent at sunset, and that's what we did. And in the morning as well, it was very foggy, still a bit rainy. So the visibility was really bad, and we were like wondering like, where is this peak that we really wanted to see, because it's the most iconic thing. And then the clouds were kind of like shifting in and out, so there was one moment that the clouds, they moved just enough that we realized that our tent was just below the peak. So it was very surprising to see that like the whole time we were camping right under this iconic peak. And the last day, it was quite easy, 13k and 500 meters of elevation. Just when you leave the mountain over here, you start climbing quite a bit, and then here there are some climbing sections, but it's aided. So they had some chains and also these like iron ladders, or like iron steps. And then gradually you just go down all the way. Again, here it's very rocky area, but once you go down here, you start to get to the green parts again. And yeah, like this valley going down, it's really beautiful. And if you have the chance, you could also spend the night in Bulnes, like right before finishing the hike. They have some really cute hotels here that you could spend the night. And then it's just a few kilometers down to Poncebos again. And if you don't want to do this whole hike, you have some options to cut it shorter. So for example here, the Ruta del Cares is connected. So you could, use this trail to cut some parts out. And also here, there is a route that would cut this part out. So I would say this hike is not for beginners. So you should really have experience of navigating in the high mountains, and you should be able to read the signs on the terrain. And also you need to be comfortable with, like climbing a little bit with your hands. And the best time to go would be from June till September, basically when the mountain huts are open as well. And we did this hike in late July, and there were some sections in the high mountains where there was quite a lot of snow. But it's basically like on this like flat area, so you just walk on the snow. And also you should carry some cash, because some of these, even in the villages, when we went through and like we went to a restaurant to eat, and they say yes, you can pay with a card, but there was no reception, so the card machine wasn't working. So really carry some extra cash with you. If you want to know more about this hike, I have also made a silent hiking film of our hike. I'm gonna link it down to the description, so go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.